We're going to be talking with these guys about building a real estate dream team. And James and David have done just that. And James, David, if y'all could, maybe just give a few minutes, just kind of an intro, on, kind of what you guys do, the team that you've built out there in LA, and also just maybe some context around Blueprint.
Absolutely. Go for it, Dave.
No, after you, please. We're very British, very polite.
Very polite indeed. So I'm James Harris, happy to be here. Thank you for having us. David and I set up our team approximately 11 years ago. We have always maintained keeping what we call a lean and mean team, where everybody is incentivized, everybody profits, and we are very grateful that we made #2 for 2022 in the Wall Street Journal Real Trends, #2 teams in the nation. We closed 800 million last year. And Dave and I are always looking to the future of how we can get better, how we can improve. Obviously, with any team, you make mistakes. It's how you learn from those mistakes and how you come back stronger from those mistakes. So happy to be here, happy to talk about our team, because without them, we wouldn't be who we are today. Go for it, Dave.
Awesome. Touche. No, absolutely. It's super important because our team's an extension of us. Our team enables us to do what we do to the highest standard possible and produce the numbers we produce. And it's not just taking anyone or like scaling considerably overnight. It doesn't work like that. It's almost like it has to be a unit, and everyone has to thrive in it. And it's not just about production. Production is important, but it's also about people being happy within that team and enjoying what they do, because without that as a basis, the longevity doesn't exist. It's not there, right? So we're happy to talk about everything that, like James said, that we've learned, all the mistakes that we've made, because frankly, we make mistakes and we grow from them and we learn from them. And just a series of events and incidents and mistakes that have got us to where we are right now, which is, like James said, #2 team in the country, which is kind of crazy if you think about it.
That's wild, guys. Congratulations on that. I did not know that y'all had received that recent accolade. So that's incredible. Great job. And one thing I would like to understand a little bit more about, guys, is like, what's the structure of the team today? How many, do you have, how many agents, how many staff members, how do you have things sort of organized?
So we have, like I said, a very lean and mean team. We have David and myself, and then we have a director of operations. So that is somebody that we look at as almost the person that keeps myself and David accountable. That person has been in the business. Her name is Michelle, for 33 years. There isn't a deal or a scenario in our business that she hasn't seen. The more complex and complicated a deal is, the more excited she becomes. And she is really our rock in terms of, she crosses the T's, she dots the I's. In business, no matter what business you're in, I think you have to understand where your highest and best use is. Mine and David's highest and best use is out in the field, negotiating, showings, listing meetings. It's not sitting at a computer and looking at contracts and running through DocuSigns. And so that is strictly Michelle's role, and she owns it and crushes it. We then have a marketing director. This is a high-level marketing pro. Her name is Georgie. Georgie sits there and runs all of the marketing assets, the photo shoots, the Instagram posts, the Facebook posts, the e-blasts, the newsletters, you name it, Georgie creates it. And we always found that having a high-level marketing person was important, because when it comes to marketing real estate, you really don't want to market 10 properties that are completely different in exactly the same way. So all of our assets are unique. All of our marketing is unique. And Georgie also serves the team that sits behind us as well. We then have obviously a day-to-day assistant who is more than just an assistant, but handles scheduling and calendars and showings and setting up the houses and just making sure that we can run as efficiently as possible. And then, of course, we have a transaction coordinator that we're able to outsource that runs all of our deals and escrows and make sure that everything runs smoothly from that perspective. And then, of course, we run the Blueprint, which is our real estate newsletter that we have Ben Teller run with us, and that we put out and make sure that we're producing fresh content to our readers every single week and make sure that we stay on top of that. And then we have, let's think, we have about 7 or 8 agents on our team. Everybody runs pretty self-sufficiently. We've got a very high producing team of agents that are able to run self-sufficiently. Some of them have their own assistants that are there to support them. And then even some of those agents have juniors below them that help support them grow. So effectively what we have is a very well-oiled machine where everybody knows what everybody is doing at all times. We have a group message, text message, so we don't overcomplicate things, so everybody is on the same page. And again, we run like a really well-oiled machine. Again, of course, we make mistakes. We learn from those mistakes, but we've never wanted to overcomplicate this team, which we have done in the past. We want to actually do the opposite, which is simplify it and go out and do what we do best, which is sell real estate.
Yeah, and I think
awesome.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway is really that, you know, we're lean and mean. We're not about like scale. We're quality over quantity, but we're also, you know, we've seen systems before whereby there's so many layers to them, it becomes almost overcomplicated. And it's like, it's a paradox, because the whole idea is you put systems in place to simplify things and make things easier, and they just end up doing the opposite, because you can't even submit an offer because you've got to go through this protocol and then that protocol, and this person has to do this. It's just a SHIT show. So the reality is that, you know, we do have a team that is very self-sufficient. They're all high producers, they are, and they're all experienced, and they don't lean on us for every single aspect. A lot of them have assistants themselves, right? But they operate under us as though they're us, but under us. So obviously, you know, we have an incredible brand. We've built it for the last 10 years, and we've been very fortunate. We've closed a lot of big deals and a lot of deals, frankly, and hit, you know, big volumes every year. And that's given us a brand. And what it does is it gives us an amazing, or it gives our team an amazing opportunity to leverage off that brand, because ultimately they're part of, we are one. And as a result, everyone kind of emulates what we do. They go about their business, they hustle, they work really, really hard, they have their assistants. And then, like James said, we have, you know, our infrastructure, the marketing, and really just the backbone of the operation and the branding that they leverage off, and it works, you know. And we don't, you know, we do, and I'm not saying it in a big-headed way, we get approached, you know, probably every day by someone wanting to join our team, but we're very selective about it, because it's not about, you know, scaling to 100, 200 people. We want to be lean and mean, and that's why I think in our category we got to #2 in the country, which hopefully soon will be #1. But you know, the truth is that we do that by not overcomplicating things. We're not reinventing the wheel. It works, and we stick to the way we do it. And like James said, yes, we make mistakes, but we learn from them. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's probably the biggest thing that we've learned recently.
Yeah, I chuckled a little bit during both of y'all talking there, just because I can just, you know, think back to times growing Boomtown at various different stages, thinking like we need a much more, you know, really defined process for this. And next thing you know, you're printing out this freaking, you know, workflow diagram that's massive. And then, you know, you crumble it up in a month later because you've got so much process, it just stifles innovation, right? And so I can relate to many of those mistakes along the way that have taught me a ton in terms of growing the Boomtown business. So a question for y'all. So in terms of the team of agents that you put together, it seems like they're probably all very much self-starters. Like, do you guys get together with them to help motivate them and keep them on track, especially in market times like these?
Definitely, yes. I think, look, any team, whether you're in a great market or a rocky market, everybody needs motivating, right? Unless I call it motivating, I call it accountability, right? It's not so much motivating, but it's holding people accountable. So every single Monday, we have a standing meeting that starts at 8 a.m. And the idea for that meeting is that everybody shows up, and we kind of have two presentations. One that is for mine and David's business. So we look at our escrows, we look at our active listings, we discuss what needs to be done, we go over sort of high-level topics, and then at 8:30, the entire team will join, and the entire team has a presentation that they would have submitted over Friday or Saturday, and that presentation has all of their active listings, all of their active escrows and pipeline. And the idea is not so much to motivate, but to discuss where we stand on a Monday so that we know what our accountability is for the next Monday, so that we know when we show up on next Monday, nobody, including David or I, want to look stupid or look like we're not doing anything. So we all know that we have to show up to this meeting ready, excited, with a pipeline that we've been able to build. And yes, motivation is key. But you know, there's a way of motivating people. A lot of teams I've seen put people down or demotivate them. We're all about trying to uplift our team, uplift people in general, and get them excited for what the future holds. And look, even in a rocky market like the one that some may say we're in now, as you and I discussed prior, Grier, there's always opportunity in a rocky market. So it's sort of, are you looking at the glass as half full right now, or are you looking at it as half empty? As an agent, we get a choice. And so we choose to look at it as the glass being half full. So go out, find the opportunity, create the opportunity, and go out and make money. And then, you know, you talk about Boomtown. What I love about you guys, and no, Grier did not ask me to say this, is that you guys have simplified. And again, this goes back to systems. We don't need 100 systems. We need 1 or 2 great systems. And where I really think Boomtown has succeeded is you've simplified a great system. You've simplified a great CRM. You've simplified a great way to generate leads. In a business like right now, in a market like right now, agents need to double down and believe in themselves. They need to write a check because you are your own business. You're an independent contractor. Now, in my opinion, is the time that you double down and you bet on yourself and you buy leads and you get structured and you get ready for when the market goes up. And that's certainly what David and I have been doing, and we will continue to do.
Yeah, and I think it's
I think you're strong.
Oh, sorry, go on, Grier. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say leading by example, because you know when we first started in this industry, we looked up to certain people, mentors, whatever you want to call them, right? People that paved the way, that showed that it was possible to really push the boundaries and become hugely successful as a realtor. And we feel that the people on our team are we look at them as our partners almost. They just watch what we do and they do the same thing, and it's amazing because those Monday meetings that James just referenced, you see when they start off with us that they don't really have much going on, truthfully, and you see that it's their slide, it comes up, and there's just not very much on there, if anything, right? And you give it a couple of weeks and you give it a few weeks, and they're so inspired by everyone else and how everyone else is performing and filling up those sheets with listings, upcoming listings, escrows, solds, right? That it just happens because they're around winners. And when you're around winners, right, you want to succeed, you become a winner yourself. And it's an incredible thing. And again, it's not by overcomplicating it. It's not about by putting in crazy systems. It's about keeping everything simple. And back to James's point about Boomtown, that you've really created that product to emulate exactly that, and again, we've seen how complicated things can get. And it's refreshing to see something like you've put together that really is straightforward, that really does emulate how we should be operating. So it's refreshing, Grier. It really is.
Well, thanks for that, guys, and I certainly didn't ask y'all to say that, so I really appreciate you mentioning it. But I mean,
this was not an infomercial for Boomtown, by the way. I just want to preface. No, thank you.
But it points back to one of the key principles, that we had when we built Boomtown is, real estate agents, I have my brother that's a real estate agent. My dad is a real estate agent. And when I was building this software, I was, these guys want a product that doesn't make them think, it's like Amazon, you've got to create an experience that doesn't make people have to think. They know what the next step to do in that software is going to be. And we, that's where we would have the most, controversy and steel sharpening steel in the early days, is just, getting down to the pixel and making sure that it passed that test every single time. And I think that had a lot to do with, with the success of Boomtown. One thing that I keep asking myself when you guys are talking about your team is, it took us a while to really figure out, who the right hire is for our culture, to really, survive and thrive within Boomtown. How was that journey for y'all? I mean, have y'all been able to kind of hit it out the park with every single hire that you've made from an agent side of things, or have y'all learned some things along the way that have made y'all better at hiring agents for your team?
I think if we could make a 10 out of 10 hire on every single person we hired, we'd be number one already. I don't think business is
Yeah.
like that in general, right? I think in business, it's trial and error. I can absolutely say we've never hired somebody that we were outright like, that was a bad decision or we messed up.
Yeah.
It was more that wasn't the right fit. And that person just wasn't willing to go 110%. And that's okay. Not everybody has the same mentality as David and I. Not everybody has the same drive. Not everybody has the same belief. And you can only really learn that and figure that out through trial and error. I would like to say that everybody on our team right now is the perfect fit, but they may not be in 6 months from now. Again, through time, you learn. And I'm a person that believes that the longer you can learn, the more you can learn, the better we become anyway. So nothing in our business is ever a failure. It's a learning experience. And I really, really believe that. And actually, rather than spending the next hour talking about all of our success, I believe talking about mistakes and failure and change is even more important, because that's how we grow. So yes, have we hired people that weren't the right fit? Absolutely. Will we continue to hire people that probably aren't the right fit? Absolutely. But we're only going to learn through each of those hires, and we're only going to get better through each of those hires. But I can tell you that right now, we have a team that is so good and so strong, and everyone holds the same belief and has the same energy and the same enthusiasm to be successful that David and I have. That sky's the limit. And that's the type of team that we want. That's the type of team that we want and strive to be, which is a team that can only continue to grow and become more and more successful.
In terms of the qualities that you look for, you talk about like bringing on a new team member, not a lot going on there in the beginning. I mean, do y'all hire some pretty green agents? And you just kind of see the qualities that you want to see? Like, what do you look for in those new agents?
No, I think historically, actually, if we look back on it, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, apart from a couple that we've got recently, everyone's been totally green, right? And they've been harvested from within. But I think there was something that we saw within those people. But yeah, right?
Absolutely. But I think at this exact minute, I don't know if we would hire someone completely green unless we just saw, exactly where we were 11 years ago. We have a guy on our team who I'd like to tell you about for a quick moment, because to me, this is like a story of success. This is a guy who came from literally making chicken sandwiches on a food truck out of Long Beach, who's originally from London, who I guess heard us on a podcast, reached out to us. This was probably how many years ago? 4 or 5 years ago. Kept reaching back out, kept reaching back out. And you could just see the hunger in this young man's eyes. the hunger to be successful. He was someone that had obviously left his country, come to a new country, was just trying to figure out how to get by, and then had this sort of big dream in his eyes. And eventually, we met with him. We took the meeting. To cut a really long story short, because obviously there's lots of different things to talk about. He became an assistant to another agent on our team for a year, effectively graduated, became an agent, and always had that hunger to be successful. And listen, this guy made over $1 million last year. This guy's closed $100 million in volume 2 years in a row. And it gives me such joy, because last night I was on Instagram, and he's, outside of the country right now with his wife, and he's posting this photo from this beautiful infinity edge swimming pool to the ocean. His wife's from the Philippines. They're out there somewhere. And I text him, this is exactly what we talked about, which is, if you work hard, if you strive to be successful, if you put the focus and time and effort and energy and self-belief into it, we can all get there. We can all do it. And he's literally done it to a T. And I'm so incredibly proud of this guy, because he realizes, I'm doing well, but I'm still down here. I got to get here. David and I are still down here. We got to get here. And I think at the moment in your career where you think you're here, that's, to me, when you're over, because that's when you think that there is no more learning, or there is no more growth, or there is no more potential, because you've already reached here. I don't think Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos sits at home and thinks, you know what, that's it, I'm done. No, they're looking at ways to grow, improve, get better, get bigger. And it's the same for us, all relative, of course. We're not Jeff Bezos, we're definitely not Elon Musk, but the mentality is always to get bigger, to get better, to improve, to be the best versions of ourselves. But he is just a story that puts a smile to my face every time I think of him, because he never gave up. He kept going, and he's on that vacation that we spoke about being on 4 or 5 years ago, when he was trying to figure out how he'd pay his rent.
That's amazing. It really is, to see where he's come to. But it shows it's possible, right? But I think, we used to take on green agents constantly, and that's what we did. We harvest them from within, and they're hugely successful. But now it's less so. Now, if we even take anyone on at all, they're more likely going to be experienced, only because now we have, homegrown, effectively experienced agents within the team. And we don't provide this whole infrastructure. We don't provide the training classes. We don't provide, frankly, the infrastructure that a new greener agent is going to need. We have self-sufficient agents that can leverage off our brand and literally go to sell hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate a year. If we take on a green agent, it would be on the condition that they're under one of the other guys, because they've got too many listings on open houses, right? Good problem to have, but that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, so that kind of gets me to, another question I have for y'all, which is, managing the team. What sort of structure do you have in place? It sounds like y'all have gone through some time periods where you maybe added too much structure into the system, and now you've kind of leveled out at a certain level. Like what exists today? It sounds like there's a little bit of an apprenticeship type of approach that you guys have instilled within the team itself, and the weekly accountability meetings. Can y'all tell me a little bit more about how things are structured internally and how things work as a team?
Yeah, so our team is structured.
Maybe even some of the things that you've done that have been wrong.
That
might be better.
I think David touched on what we've done wrong in the past, having too many systems, too many structures, too many meetings, too many cooks in the kitchen can work against you, because it puts in too many layers that you're spending so much time, effort, and energy on structure that you're taking away from the selling. And so where we're at today is very simple. It really comes down to less is more. Open lines of communication, transparency, meetings, accountability, CRM, making sure people are making their calls, making sure people are opening escrows, making sure people are closing escrows, making sure, most importantly, that there is a true camaraderie between us as a team, and making sure that no one veers out of that. The second one person veers out of that, the team crumbles and it becomes a negative energy within the team. So for us, it's, again, we work with a group of individuals that all know what they need to do and where they need to be and how they're going to get there. So one thing that we do on our Monday morning meetings is everybody has an end of year goal. Everybody has what's closed and everybody has what's in escrow. So they know exactly where they stand every single week and where they need to get by year's end. We obviously look at tracking, so we know if we're tracking it. Now, David and I would like to get to over $1 billion. So we look at our team's revenue, we look at our revenue, and we look at how far we are. So again, the real structure behind our team isn't necessarily systems, Grier, and making sure that people are using them as much as it is holding everybody accountable to get to that number, to have the belief that people can get to that number. If they're not tracking that number, figuring out how to get back on that number, making sure their emails are going out, their phone calls are being made, making sure they're calling expireds, making sure they're sitting open houses, both Saturdays and Sundays, making sure their signs are out, making sure they're just sold and just listed mailers are going out, and making sure that everyone remains consistent with the tools that we have in front of us that we can use to better ourselves. Once you stop doing that because you demotivate yourself because maybe you're not doing as good as you should be, you kind of fall to the sidelines. So again, it's really accountability at every single step of the way for us and our team. Don't know if, Dave, you have anything you want to add there, but that's sort of how I see it.
True, but again, the accountability, it's such a simplified system that we have in place, right? Every Monday morning, everyone has to present what their listings are, what their upcoming listings are, and what their escrows are, and what their solds are. And it's just a slide or 2 slides for each person in order. Straight away, not just are you kind of on blast to everyone, right? But you're also on blast yourself, most importantly. You can only get away with it for so many weeks, having, basically nothing going on. And like I said, time after time, our agents, you see them grow, you see that list get longer, you see that production go up, and it's a great feeling to see that, not only selfishly because we make more money, but selflessly as well, because you see someone really evolve and become a top agent under you, right? Or as part of your team. It's pretty cool. And again, simple, don't overcomplicate it. Those slides basically hold everyone accountable, including James and I as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly simple, but what I kind of see about it is it's all you need, because I mean, everybody, it's y'all's brands that y'all have built over the years that's being leveraged, and everybody's there, in part because of that brand, right? And if you've got team members that are slacking off or not doing what they should be doing, and hustling, which I think is part of what people see the brand as, then, the team members are going to call them out, and they're going to see it, they're going to see it themselves that they're not stacking up. And it probably helps with, kind of helping you guys decide, when the right time is to move somebody on, or maybe they see it themselves before you even have it.
But it's very rare that we actually do that. It's very rare that we've let go of people. Very rare,
right?
Because we do feel that we have a good culture, and that everyone wants to produce. Everyone wants to be the best version of themselves within this industry, and it's worked pretty. By the way, yes, people have left, but in general, we do keep it lean and mean. We are very selective, and it's been pretty good.
So when do you know it's time to build the team? So you mentioned the $1 billion. I can't help but think of it with the 800 million y'all did last year. Y'all going to get there this year. So, in a tumultuous year, right? And so, when do you know that it's time to build the team from where it is today?
I personally believe, and David and I have gone through trial and error on this, quality over quantity. Yeah, I don't think we need 25 agents to get to $1 billion. I think if we have 8 agents right now, I would rather have another 2 agents that are high producing, high level agents that have the potential to take you from here to here than hiring another 12 agents to get you to the same place. One thing I've personally learned is sometimes you have to slow down in order to grow. Instead of trying to run before you can walk, instead of trying to find the quick and easy solution to get from here to here in a day or a month or 6 months, I now would rather take my time and slow down and be a little more methodical and careful about how I get from A to B, or A to Z, should I say. So I don't know in real terms of how we would get to 800 to a billion to 1.5 billion. But one thing I do know is growth needs to happen organically. It can't be forced. It can't be pushed. It can't be rushed. It has to happen organically when the time is right and it feels right. And you have to put in the time as a boss, a CEO, as a creator, as someone that's going to mentor others. You have to put in the time in order to get there. You can't take any shortcuts. I think shortcuts are maybe something one does in their life at some point. Maybe it works. Usually it doesn't. It's hard work pays off. So for me, and of course for David, we both want to work hard. We don't want to take shortcuts. We want to be methodical in our decisions. We want to be careful in our decisions, and we want to be thoughtful. And where we've gone wrong in the past, and to anybody that's watching, is David and I myself have made decisions as leaders within our team without consulting our team. And I think that if you're going to truly run a team that feels like a family, you have to consult those decisions within your team before you go and make them, because we've pissed people off along the way by making very big decisions that we didn't check with our team on what they thought about it, what were their feelings around it. And so one lesson we definitely learned is, and of course there will be decisions we make that we can't always check with certain people because it's private, but in the grand scheme of things, we always want to run our decisions by our team before we make any big decisions, so that our team always remain on the same page and there's a good energy.
I think that's very well said, and I think that's an incredible takeaway for any business leader. Same mistakes that I've made, along the way is those exact ones. Getting into feeling like you're having to force it. And it's always people related, it's been hiring related for us. It's always been, the current pain of not having someone in that role, was just too painful not to just fill it with somebody that I felt was, a 75, 80% fit. And, kind of not listening to some of the other voices around the room that, that quite frankly, I trust and thought, maybe this is one that can sneak by and be great, and those are the things that I think cost businesses a lot more than just the time it takes to hire them and onboard them and bring them into the culture. Oftentimes it can create a toxic environment within your organization and throw a lot of things off kilter. And I think that's just a great lesson to learn here is to be very, very thoughtful. And everybody, there's the old adage, hire slow, fire fast. And man, could it not have been more true in my career thus far is if you do make a mistake, take action, but more importantly, take your time on those hires.
Glad we discussed that, because it's so true and so important, and it can cost you your business. So, it's again, it's a learning curve, and I believe we grow through mistakes. And I hope anybody listening can learn before they make that mistake, because this is the part of growing, right? Is these type of conversations where you hear people talk about it that have got a certain level of success, that can own fault, and take liability for mistakes. And hopefully we've shared something here today that will help someone from making that mistake in the near future.
Kind of like being a kid and a parent, and basically your parents are telling you stuff as you're growing up, and they're like telling you for your own good. It's like been there, done it. It's like out the window. Do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes you have to make the mistake yourself. And by the way, it's okay if you guys disagree with what we're saying and you think a different thing. Go for it. And let us know if it works, because it didn't work for us. Maybe it was just us, but again, it's only our experience.
Yeah, isn't that strange? Like, you hear all these things, you read all these things in books, and for some reason, maybe it's just me, but I always have to make the mistake myself and feel the pain before I actually get it.
Definitely not just you, I can assure you.
So one of the I'm sure that there's probably some younger aspiring team leaders here on this call today, trying to build that dream team for themselves. Um, what y'all have hired a director of operations, a director of marketing. When is the right time to hire a Michelle, to hire a Georgie? When is the right time to make those type of hires, and how did you guys identify that for your business?
Go for it, Dave.
Yeah, I don't think it's like I think this is what I think actually from experience. The right time to make a hire is when you absolutely can't function without that hire, or maybe a little bit before that. That kind of speaks to itself, right? James and I first hired our assistant because we weren't using our time correctly. We were sitting there drawing contracts up, which we have zero patience to do, right? It's just not what we are or who we are. We're better off out there selling. So we hired our assistant. And then we kind of realized that we're getting a lot of buyers leads that we don't have time to service correctly, right? So we took on a buyer's agent, right? So that it just is very organic. I don't think that you look like, what do we hire next? What do we need to hire next? I think it speaks to you. It's like, oh God, we can't keep up with this aspect. Now we should probably hire someone to do that. Like, then we went to marketing. We never really had someone in-house for marketing because the brokerage would provide those services to us. But then fortunately we got so many listings and they were backed up, the brokerage. We were like, guys, James and I, we need our own marketing person that's dedicated to us, because we're lucky now we have a lot of listings, and we also want to look a little bit different. We don't want the same template as every other agent in the brokerage is using. We want to have our own identity within there. So then you make the marketing hire, and then it's just very organic. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but I think it's very organic, and I think you hire when you really feel that you need to, rather than just talk about who should we hire.
Are y'all comfortable talking at all about compensation models and how you've kind of landed on where you are? Have y'all changed that over time, or how does that typically work?
Very little.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry,
No, please go for it.
Well, it's not that, it's just very little. Like, we always had a very basic template, right? Which is just, splitting across the board, right? With, 50-50 across the board. And then we've given one other option, which is, slightly more weighted if it's the agent's lead, or slightly more weighted if it's our lead. And we give them a choice. It's like, what do you guys want? And they'll choose what they want. They get on with it. Again, simple. It's like, you see these, like, we've gone through it though. We've tried to complicate it. We thought, well, what if we do this? And what if we do that? The tiered and this. It's just, we always come back to the simple model, because the more complicated you get, you're opening up a can of worms of more, more incidents, or more like situations whereby, how do you navigate that? You're just opening up more instances. And I'm just telling you what we do works, and it's very simple. So it's like, we kind of figured that out. It works, it doesn't complicate it, and it minimizes the amount of issues going forward.
Yeah, I would imagine that. Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to calculate it on a tiered base approach, and people are like, what's going on here, and you got to explain it to them.
The more complicated,
you just keep it simple.
The more complicated the deal becomes, the more instances that are complicated evolve from that. It's just what it is.
So we do have a question. When buyers want to work with you, but you give them to your buyer's agent, do you ever get pushback as they want you personally? And if so, how do you deal with that? That's a really great question, because this is such a personable business that when somebody reaches out to you, they want you. And one thing that we've learned is that you have to sort of set up the narrative at the very beginning of that conversation. If you don't have a clear line of communication with the client, it becomes blurred very quick. So I'd rather be transparent from the very get-go so that there's no miscommunication. So a client comes, says, I give you an example. We had a client call us yesterday, actually. They have a development deal. One of our agents on our team is just an incredible development agent. This is where their area of expertise are. So I simply said to the client, yes, we'd love to represent you. I have an agent on my team who is a complete expert when it comes to development. And this is on the list side, not the buy side, but we're going to be working this together. And it goes the same for buyers. You know, if I'm introducing a buyer to a team member, I let my buyer know that we're going to be working this together. I'm going to be overseeing everything. I'm going to be very hands-on with the negotiation. And then ultimately, I know that that client is going to get comfortable with the person on my team. And if they're not for some reason, then we can pivot and figure it out. But again, if you're transparent from the very beginning, and you tell the client exactly what the expectation is, you should be good. Keep it simple. Hopefully that's been the takeaway. Keep it simple. Put a couple of great systems in place that are going to help you hold yourself accountable, work hard, see the glass as half full through these difficult times or rockier times than what we've seen, and go out and kill it. That's the takeaway for today.
Exactly. I could not agree more. And thank you so much, Grier, and everyone for your time. And thank you for being here with us. And we hope we were slightly useful.
No, I think this has been great, guys. Really appreciate both of y'all taking the time this morning to talk to the audience here, and hopefully we can get this out to a lot more folks, because this is really good advice on how to really grow an awesome team. And congrats again, guys, on becoming number 2. I hope to see y'all at the top of that list come next year in the Real Trends list. But thanks, guys, again for being here, and thank you all for attending. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk soon, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy being here, Grier. Thank you, everybody.